Okay, so let's dive into this. We've got these ideas, and they feel like they're all sort of pointing towards finding a bit more stillness, maybe, in the middle of everything. It starts with this picture, like a river, always moving, right? And how easily our minds just get caught up, you know, pulled along.
Oh, yeah. That feeling is very familiar. It's the constant demands, isn't it? Emails, notifications, all the things we have to do.
Exactly.
It really can feel like you're being tugged everywhere at once, and underneath it all, time just feels like it's slipping away.
Yeah.
So the idea of finding some, I don't know, solid ground,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty good.
Absolutely. And what really jumped out at me was this idea that, well, maybe just 10 minutes a day, a specific kind of practice could actually change how we relate to time and, ourselves. It almost sounds too simple, doesn't it? Like, really, 10 minutes is going to make that kind of difference.
It's like a fair question.
Yeah.
I think we tend to think big changes need, well, big efforts.
Right.
But maybe the real power is in the consistency. Like
Yeah.
that small, steady nudge on the rudder of a ship.
Okay.
Over time, even a tiny adjustment leads you somewhere completely different. So it's maybe about the buildup, the cumulative effect of these small, deliberate moments.
So where does this kind of thinking come from? It feels old, like it has deep roots somewhere.
It does seem to echo some very old wisdom. You think about Siddhartha Gautama, Art of the Bodhi tree. His big insight was really about how much of our suffering comes from not being fully here in the present.
Right, when your mind's somewhere else.
Exactly. Either stuck going over the past or jumping ahead to the future. It creates this inner static almost. And mindfulness static, just being fully present, that's the way to kind of smooth it out.
That really clicks for me. I mean, when I feel the most stressed, it's usually because my mind is just racing,
Right.
trying to juggle everything, worrying about things that haven't even happened.
Yeah.
It's this frantic mental act, and honestly, it just leaves you feeling drained.
Totally depleted. And, it's not just a feeling. Neuroscience actually backs this up. Research shows our minds wander nearly half the time.
Wow, half.
Yeah. And all that shifting around uses up energy. It pulls us away from really engaging with what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
So the goal then becomes, how do we shift from just reacting all the time,
Yeah.
to stimuli, to moving through the day with more intention?
Okay, so we're in this river, life's rushing by, our minds are off doing their own thing. How do we actually find that stability, that anchor you mentioned earlier?
Well, there's that image of a single stone, right? How it can change the course of a whole river. It suggests that maybe these small, deliberate actions, like taking those 10 minutes for quiet focus, really can shift things.
Yeah.
They become these little anchors, touchstones in the flow.
There's a story here, too, about a young monk. He was struggling, feeling scattered, always behind.
Oh, yeah.
And his teacher gave him this really simple practice. Just 3 deep breaths and then ask, what's the most important thing I need to do right now? Sounds ridiculously simple, but apparently it worked wonders for him.
What I like about that story is how relatable it is. I mean, who hasn't felt overwhelmed by just too much stuff to do?
Exactly.
The power of that tiny pause is how it cuts through all the mental chatter. It brings clarity to the one thing that needs focus right then. It's a practical way to put mindfulness into action, isn't it?
Yeah.
Moving from just reacting to consciously choosing. What strikes you about it?
It really makes me think how often I just bounce from task to task without, really being in any of them. That simple act, pause, ask the question, seems like it could bring such focus. So how does this connect to, planning the day? It's clearly not just about making a to-do list.
No, not at all. The way it's presented here, mindful planning is more about consciously engaging with time itself, with our intentions.
Okay.
It's about reframing time, not seeing it as this force that's just pushing you along, but as, a resource you could actually shape. So instead of just being pulled around by external demands, you become an active participant. You start aligning what you do with what really matters to you. Your values, your bigger goals.
Okay, I get the why now. That makes sense. But let's get into the how. What's actually happening, practically speaking, when we take those 10 minutes to plan with intention?
Well, psychologically, when you do that kind of focused thinking, you're activating the prefrontal cortex.
Right, the decision-making part of the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Decision-making, problem-solving, self-control. By consciously mapping out your intentions, you're basically making a bunch of small decisions ahead of time. And that reduces what psychologists call cognitive load. The mental effort of constantly deciding what to do next all day long.
Right, decision fatigue.
Precisely. So by clearing out some of that mental clutter up front, you actually free up bandwidth. You have more space for focus, maybe even creativity, when you actually get to the tasks. And what's really interesting is the research showing a link between planning like this and feeling more satisfied, less stressed, and, well, actually getting more done.
That's the science bit. But it feels like there's something deeper going on too, doesn't it? A kind of philosophical layer. It's not just about efficiency.
You're right. It draws heavily on Buddhist thought, particularly the idea of impermanence.
Change is constant.
Exactly. Everything changes our plans, our situations, us. So if we cultivate an awareness of that constant flux, we can start to loosen our grip on rigid expectations. We don't have to cling so tightly to exactly how things should go.
Okay.
And that transforms planning. It stops being this fixed agenda we force onto reality and becomes more like a flexible, dynamic practice. Just being present with our intentions, moment by moment, ready to adapt.
I can definitely relate to starting the day feeling, all over the place, and then ending it feeling like I was busy, sure, but didn't really make progress on the important stuff. It's easy to feel like you're always falling short.
And maybe the invitation here isn't to beat ourselves up about that, but to see those feelings as, like, valuable signals.
Feedback.
Yeah, feedback. They're pointing to maybe a mismatch between what we intend and what we actually do. So instead of just trying harder, pushing more, the idea is to bring more awareness, more intention into how we approach the day. Work smarter, maybe, more mindfully.
That sounds like it connects to that idea of right effort. It's not about burning yourself out, is it? It's more about directing your energy wisely.
Precisely. Right effort is about discernment. It's about figuring out which actions actually nourish us and move us towards our goals, and which are just habits, distractions, maybe spinning our wheels. So when we bring that kind of mindful awareness to planning, it becomes less about a strict schedule and more about thoughtfully sculpting the day with purpose, with meaning, instead of just reacting.
There's this really vivid story in here about an entrepreneur, Maya. Super successful on the outside, but totally overwhelmed.
I remember that one.
And she was really skeptical at first, like 10 minutes of planning. How's that going to help?
Right.
But she tried asking herself these 3 questions each morning. What's my highest priority today? What one thing, if I do it, would bring me the most joy or fulfillment? And what can I just let go of today?
Simple questions, but profound.
Yeah. And apparently they completely changed things for her.
Maya's story is such a great example of right effort in practice, isn't it? By deliberately focusing on her core priorities, on what resonated deeply, and importantly, on what she could release.
That letting go part seems key.
It really is. She shifted from just reacting to everything coming at her to consciously creating her day. Her focus probably sharpened, her decisions got clearer, and that sense of fulfillment likely grew not by doing more, necessarily, but by doing what truly mattered to her.
And it's fascinating how this isn't just philosophical. There's research mention, studies showing real, tangible benefits. Structured reflection, goal setting. They actually improve focus, motivation, well-being. Even the likelihood of achieving your goals goes up.
It's a powerful thing when ancient wisdom aligns with modern science, isn't it? It really underscores the practical value of bringing intention into our daily rhythm. But it also brings up a good point about balance, right?
Yeah, like, how do you avoid over-planning, becoming too rigid? Or the opposite, being so loose you just drift?
Finding that sweet spot. And that leads nicely into this Japanese idea, Kaizen, continuous improvement.
How does Kaizen fit with planning?
Well, Kaizen's all about small, incremental changes, tiny improvements made consistently over time rather than trying to do some massive overhaul all at once.
Okay.
So applying that to planning means you don't have to create the perfect plan right away. It's more like an ongoing experiment. You try something, see how it feels, make small tweaks, learn what works for you. It's about gradual progress, not instant perfection.
That feels much more manageable. So it's iterative. But, okay, what about when life throws a curveball? Because it always does, right? How do you stay flexible when the unexpected happens?
That's where the Buddhist principle of non-attachment comes in really handy.
Okay, explain that in this context.
It doesn't mean you don't care about your plans or you're not committed. Not at all. It means letting go of that rigid clinging to a specific outcome.
Ah, right.
You set your intention, you make your plan, but you stay open. You accept that things might unfold differently. It's about trusting yourself to adapt, to learn, to find a new way forward, even if plan A gets disrupted. Like a gardener,
Yeah.
They tend to garden carefully, but they can't control the weather. They work with the conditions.
Plan, but be ready to pivot. Got it. What about keeping motivated, sticking with this practice day after day? How do we handle the emotional side?
Well, the material really emphasizes gratitude and celebrating small wins.
Ah.
And there's good research on this too. Gratitude and acknowledging progress consistently boost well-being and keep motivation up. The suggestion is simple. Maybe at the end of your 10 minutes, just quickly note down, say, 3 things you're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe visualize yourself acknowledging even tiny achievements from the day before. It shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's present, building that positive momentum.
Okay, but here's a potential worry. Could all this planning actually squash creativity?
Yeah.
Doesn't structure sometimes feel limiting?
It's a common concern, but the perspective here is actually the reverse.
Really?
Yeah. The argument is that by mindfully planning, by clearing away that mental fog of what should I do next and decision fatigue, you actually create more space for new ideas to pop up. When your mind isn't bogged down in the weeds of organizing, it's freer to innovate. Think about someone like Steve Jobs, famously meticulous about planning, yet it led to incredibly creative, revolutionary outcomes.
That's a really interesting counter-argument. So it's not about boxing yourself in, but building a container that actually supports creative flow.
Exactly.
It makes me think about, wow, what if all my actions, even tiny ones, were aligned with my deepest values? It conjures up this image of a life lived with, I don't know, more clarity, more balance, maybe more peace.
And the idea is that mindful planning is a gateway to that. It's
Yeah.
a way to gather that scattered energy and turn it into focused momentum. It puts you back in the driver's seat, actively shaping your life instead of just being carried along.
This definitely feels like it goes beyond just ticking off tasks more efficiently. It feels like it's pointing towards maybe a kind of inner freedom,
I think so. There's the Buddhist concept of dependent origination.
which is about interconnectedness.
Yes, essentially that everything arises in relation to other things. Nothing exists in isolation. So our mindful planning, these little acts of setting intention, they plant seeds. And those seeds have ripples, consequences far beyond the immediate task. So by consciously aligning our actions with our values, moment by moment, and staying present, we're cultivating that deeper sense of inner liberation.
There's another story here about Arun, living in a hectic city, feeling totally trapped by his life.
Yes, the monastery visit.
Right. He learns about the sacred pause, and then he starts his own practice just 10 minutes in the morning, visualizing his ideal day, reframing his priorities, not as tasks, but as intentions. And it sounds like it completely changed his perspective, his productivity, everything.
Arun's story is a perfect illustration, isn't it? That brief, intentional pause allowed him to shift his whole experience. By setting intentions aligned with his values, he went from feeling like a victim of his circumstances to being an active creator of his day.
So, for someone listening who wants to try this, what are some really concrete, practical steps to start building this daily ritual?
Well, the ideas here offer a pretty clear sequence. First, find a quiet spot, somewhere you won't be interrupted, where you can just be with yourself for a bit.
Okay.
Second, start with the breath. Just a few moments focusing on breathing in and out to center yourself. Let go of any tension.
Grounding.
Third, ask those key questions. Maybe write them down at first. What am I grateful for? What's the most important focus for today? Who or what needs my care or attention? What can I simplify or release? And how will I take care of my own well-being?
Those 5 questions seem crucial.
They cover a lot of ground. Fourth, take just a moment to visualize the day unfolding well, feeling that sense of accomplishment or peace.
Visualization.
And finally, commit. Maybe jot down your top 1 or 2 priorities. And perhaps end with a little affirmation, something positive to carry into the day.
That sequence feels doable, like building blocks for connecting more deeply with the present and responding more consciously.
Exactly. Because mindful planning, really, it isn't just about managing time better. It's a path to reclaiming your own agency, your authority over your life, and becoming a more conscious creator of your experience.
It's fascinating, too, how it connects to that Buddhist idea of emptiness shunyata, understanding that choices don't happen in a vacuum, right? They're all interconnected.
Precisely.
So choosing to prioritize, say, family time over working late isn't just about that one evening. It's an investment in emotional well-being, spiritual connection, which ripples outwards.
That's such a key insight. Seeing the web of connections helps us make choices that serve not just ourselves, but the larger whole, fostering harmony.
So when it comes down to it, the goal isn't perfection. It's not about having the perfectly planned, flawless life. It's more about cultivating presence, isn't it? Just fully being here now.
Exactly.
And maybe those 10 minutes are just a way to honor ourselves, our humanity. a space to intentionally design a life that feels true to our deepest values.
Beautifully put. It's a roadmap, really. Not to perfection, but to navigating life's inevitable complexities with a bit more grace, more wisdom, and a stronger connection to ourselves.
You know, talking through all this, I actually feel calmer. There's a real sense of perspective, I think, on the power held in those small, intentional pauses.
And perhaps that's the core takeaway, to see this practice not as one more thing to do, but as a gift we give ourselves, a daily chance to reconnect with that inner compass, to rediscover the beauty of living consciously, with intention. Mastering mindful planning in this light, it isn't just about success in the outer world. It's about unlocking the very essence of being fully alive,